Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here another 10 pens that are currently inked for this week. So let's just go through these pens left to right. We'll go through them in a little bit more detail and then we'll do a writing sample. So from left to right we have the Armando Simoni Club, and this is the Bologna Extra Africa. We have an Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra Wild. We have an Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra Arco Verde, and then we have an Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra Arco Brown. We have a Visconti Jacques de Molay, and this is from the Templar series. We have a Monte Grappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove. We have a Pelican M800 Royal Gold Raden. We have a Scribo 2 in the Noble Green, we have a Scribo 2 in the Cardinal Red, and we have the Molteni Royal Blue Lucents Modelo 55S. So let's take a look at the first pen here, and this is the Armando Simoni Club, and this is the Bologna Extra Africa. This was a pen that I picked up somewhat recently. This was in June 2019, and this was at the Midlands Pen Show in the UK. And you can see here, this is engraved ASC Bologna. It's a little bit hard to see there on the barrel, but it says ASC Bologna Extra Africa number 19. I picked this up from John Foy at St John's Pens at the Pen Show, and this really is a beautiful pen. I do love this material. It is very similar and very reminiscent of the Omas material that was the Burkina. It's not quite the Burkina material. It has quite a bit of a difference to it, but this material is really, really lovely, and I'm so glad that I managed to pick this up. I do still long for a Burkina, and I would love to have a Burkina, and I would even more like to have a Burkina in the Bologna Extra size with the Magic Flex nib. However, I know that that's going to be pretty impossible, so I might have to pick up a Burkina from an Omas model and maybe add that to the collection as well. But this really is a stunning pen. So it's a very large oversized pen, has a pneumatic filling mechanism here, and I'll show you the nib. The nib in here is a number 8 size, and this is a Bock nib, but it's an ASC Magic Flex nib, and it's actually quite a lovely nib. It's very juicy, very wet, and as I mentioned, this does have a pneumatic filler. So this is, and I will do this, and I will try not eject ink out of here, because I have to be careful. There's a hole on the end here which I must not put my finger over. So this is the pneumatic filling mechanism. So I'm going to push that back down, and what happens when you push it down, you actually have your finger over the hole, and then what happens is that creates a vacuum inside the pen, and when you let your finger off, it sucks in air, or effectively ink, that you're trying to fill, and it will fill the pen. So you do have to make sure that you have your finger over that hole to fill the pen. So it's a little bit more tricky to fill than maybe some other pens, but it's still quite a nice pen to actually fill and write with as well. So this is a pen that I do like writing with a lot, and for me this really is a lovely pen. So I'm always glad when I can write with pens that I do like a lot in my collection. I don't necessarily like every single pen in my collection, but this is, or as like them as much perhaps as other pens, but this really is a beautiful pen. So that's the first pen that I have currently inked up. The other pen, and as you can see here, I do like these ASC Bolognas extras, and this is the Wild Side, and this again is a very oversized pen, pneumatic filling mechanism as well. But this material again is OMAS material that was used pretty much dedicated to OMAS, although I think there might be a few other pen brands that have used this material in the past. But this is called the Wild, or the Wild Side material, and it's a little bit of a lightning effect strike going on there. Or even like what you would see on some marble countertops perhaps. But this again is a really nice size, really nice weight, and again has that number 8 size nib, and it's a Bock nib, and it's the ASE Magic Flex nib. But that to me is a beautiful writer, and I like these pens because they put down a very thick line. You cannot only get these in one nib width, so it's kind of designated a medium nib. Some retailers will list it as a fine nib. It writes more like a broad because it is a very, very wet pen. But for me, I do like wet pens, wet nibs, and that doesn't disappoint me. So I do love writing with my ASE Bologna Extras. And I do like the size, and I do like the material, and I do like that number 8 size nib. So this is the next pen, and this is again an Armando Ceramic Club Bologna Extra, and this is the Arco Verde. And if you've seen some of my previous videos, you will have realised that I don't just have one of these, I have 4 of these. And I was really only planning to buy one initially, and then I couldn't work out whether or not I wanted the gold trim here or a rhodium silver coloured trim. And so I then decided at that point I would go for 2 pens, one of each trim, and then it looked as though they weren't turning up, and then I ordered another couple, one of each trim from another retailer, and they arrived, and then also I received notification that the other 2 were arriving. So in the end I decided I had the money available, and I really do love this Arco and the Arco Verde, so I decided I would actually get 4 of these in the end. So I do have 4. 2 have been never inked, and 2 I do have inked up, or at the moment only one of them. So this is that. But again, this is the number 8 size Bock Magic Flex nib, and this just really, for me, is a lovely wet writing nib. But look at that Arco Verde material, and it just shines there in just amongst the studio lighting. It's just very, very beautiful material. And it's not a material that is for everyone. I started out with the Arco Brown, which is the next one here, and this actually does shine a little bit more, and you can see here that this material really is quite stunning. So this is number 202. So these are not limited edition pens per se, they are numbered edition pens, but this is a beautiful pen. And to be honest, before I started looking at Arco material, I really didn't like them, and for me, my tastes have changed over the years, and now I love the material so much that I have quite a few Arcos in my collection. So this was really, I think it was the second Arco Brown that actually started me down the Arco route. But you can see here this material really is quite stunning. So you just see how the light captures that material. It's actually polished with a beeswax compound just to really sort of make it shine like that. And again, this has a number 8 size Bock Magic Flex nib, and you can see there again it's a really, really lovely writing nib. You can get a little bit of variance on these nibs writing. This one tends to write a little bit more scratchier than some of the other Bologna Extras that I have. Not as in really scratchy, it's just there's a little bit more feedback, and I do notice it a little bit more. But I do still like writing with that pen a lot. So for me, that's another one that I have been writing with this past week. And then another lovely pen here is the Visconti, and this is the Templar series, and it's the Jacques de Molay. And the story behind this was that I've been looking for this pen, trying to get hold of this pen for a couple of years, and I couldn't find any retailers that had any. And I've had a number of other collectors offer me versions of this pen which are sadly, in my mind, nowhere near as nice looking. They're a lot more plain, don't have all the chainmail on, and don't necessarily have the red crosses like this. And unfortunately, they as much as I would pick them up if I couldn't get this one, I was able to strike gold and get this from Marco at Novelli, and he was able to come through for me with Visconti, and we were able to pick this pen up from the Visconti vault, and I'm so glad we did. This was a special present. It was a birthday present. I bought it for myself. I know that might sound a little bit sad, but sometimes we have to reward ourselves, and this was going to be my birthday pen, and it was, and I really am glad that if there are dates where you want to try and buy a nice pen, then you would like a nice pen, and this pen doesn't disappoint. So I'm really glad of this, and again, like, this is a beautiful pen, beautiful writing nib, and this is a 23 cat palladium nib from Visconti. It's a Bock nib again, but it really is a beautiful writing nib. I did actually have to make a few modifications to the nib just to make it write a little bit more wetter, because it was a very dry writer, but now it writes absolutely perfect. And I know I've had a lot of questions from people, like there have been questions and statements, sort of, some people ask me how many nibs do I modify in my collection. Other people have actually said more of a statement that I modify every single nib in my collection, which is not the case. I only actually modify the nibs where the nib isn't writing out of the box like it should do, and also that I'm not looking to return it to the retailer or the manufacturer for them to rectify it. I'm thankful that I have actually learned how to make nibs write wetter and smoother, and I do that purely out of my own sort of knowledge that I have learned over the years. And I also, there is obviously a caveat there that once you are modifying a nib, you cannot return it, you're avoiding the warranty, and I understand that. So I'm confident in being able to make a nib write wetter or making a nib write smoother. So that's something that I will do on some of these pens, even if they are very expensive pens, because I don't want to necessarily have the pen sent back halfway across the world, because a lot of the retailers I buy from are not actually in the UK, strangely enough, and they could be in the US, they could be in Italy. So for me, that is an expensive return cost. So I will actually modify nibs. Now, I wouldn't recommend that if anybody would modify a nib, you need to start on some cheap pens, some Jinhaos first, and only do it if you know that you're not going to return the pen. And if you mess it up, you mess it up. But for me, I've never messed up a pen, so I'm very confident in being able to do that. Now, the next pen that I have inked up this week is the lovely, stunning Montegrappa, and this is the Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove. And you can see there, this has this beautiful Shiny Lines celluloid. And again, the celluloid in these pens are becoming rarer and rarer. It's no longer made due to fire risks and fire hazards and spontaneous combustion. So the celluloid that's available in the world today, especially this very lovely, beautiful celluloid, is now on its way out. So over the last probably 18 months, I've been on a bit of a celluloid kick, and I've been buying some of these celluloids. So whether or not it's a Shiny Lines Dove, whether or not it's the Arco Brown, the Arco Verdes, the Wild, or even this Africa, they are all celluloids. So once the celluloid has gone, it's gone for good. So for me, that's why I've been on a bit of a celluloid buying spree over the last 18 months. but this is a beautiful pen. I do love these like stacked celluloids. I've got a number of Viscontis. I didn't have any Montegrappers, and I wanted this one. So this, the reason why it's called the shiny lines. The shiny lines are obviously these lines here, and then the dove is the nib, which actually has a dove on it. And the nib here was is a standard Montegrapper. It's an extra number 8 size nib, and although it may not look like a number 8 size nib, it's actually pushed in a little bit further into the section there. Goulet Pens had this pen created, and it's one of very few Montegrappers that actually do not have a silver section, and it actually has a celluloid section there. So for me, I don't like the silver sections because they do tarnish and you do have to keep polishing them. So for me, that was a definite buy, and I contacted Brian and spoke to him and said, I want this pen, and I was able to get it pretty early on when they had announced that they were going to be selling them. Of course, unfortunately now it's long sold out, as most of these celluloid pens become very quickly because they are very hot commodities. And another pen that again was another very hot commodity was this one, and it's a Pelikan M800, but it's the Royal Gold Rawdon. Now, more recently in, I think it was 2019 or 2018, Pelikan brought out the platinum version of this, which is very nice, but I prefer the gold version. So this is actually Rawdon stripes, and you'll see that here. If I zoom in, that this is abalone shell in a gold version, and it's just layered in there, so you can see how beautiful this pen really is. So this was a pen that I really wanted to get, and you can see the artist's name there on the pen. And to be honest, I have always been looking at the Pelikan M1000, like the Rawdon versions, like the Starlight, the Sunrise, I think it's the Sunset maybe, but this was, they are all very, very expensive, too expensive to be honest, and this one came up, and this was actually again way too expensive for what I believe it to be, but it is obviously an artistic pen. It has the Rawdon in it, and Rawdon pens don't come cheap, so I did pick up this M800, and it has a standard M800 nib there, and you can see there that it's a broad nib, and that is a very nice writing nib. So I thought that was ideal to be able to pick that one up, and I did, and this was, I think, a couple of years ago now. But it's a pen I've not been writing with a lot lately, and I've started to write with again because there are pens in my collection that I haven't written with for some time. And the next sort of couple of pens are Scribos. These are Right Here exclusives. Right Here Pens, if you don't know, is a pen retailer in the UK. The owner is John Hall, and he has partnered with Luca Baglioni from Scribo or Scrittura Bolognese. Scrittura Bolognese or Scribo were the original employees from Omas. When Omas closed its doors, they set up a new business called Scrittura Bolognese, and this is a collaboration with Luca, and it's a pen that I do like a lot. It also has the Omas OM81 extra Flesser Bile nibs on, because Scribo were able to actually purchase the nib creating machines from Bock, so this is made of that with an ebonite feeder. So this is a 14 karat gold magic sort of flex nib kind of nib. Obviously it's not a magic flex nib, it's just an extra flex nib, but these do flex quite a lot, and that's why I do like these Scribos. So it really, and to be honest, this I would really call a magic flex nib, whereas the ASC Bolognas really do not flex that much, although they are termed magic flex. And then I also have this one. So that's the Noble Green. This is the Cardinal Red, and again, right here, Scribo exclusive. And this is again a beautiful pen. And you can see there the right here logo on the finial there. And these are piston filling pens, and again, this is a 14 karat gold flex nib, and it's using the Omas OM81 flex nib. So if you ever hear or have ever used or written with an Omas OM81 flex nib, then that is the nib to get, because they are effectively the best, in my mind, flex nibs of the modern age. So if you want a flex nib or a bouncy nib that has a lot of cushion when you're writing with it, then I would definitely try and go for a Scribo pen. And last but not least, we have the lovely Molteni, and this is the Royal Blue Lucents, and this is the Modello 55S. And this is actually made out of a number of different materials that Omas used on their pens. So the royal blue part of it comes from the cap finial here, the cap itself, and the filling knob, because that's the celluloid royal blue material that Omas used to use. And then the body here is the Lucents material, which is a sort of semi-transparent material there, so you can kind of see like the piston mechanism inside there that you might just be able to see there. But this is a really nice pen. Now this is an 18 karat gold nib, and it's a medium nib, but for me this again is really nice. Again, it has that ebonite feeder, and if you don't know, ebonite feeds or ebonite feeders are basically another version of the feed. Most feeds nowadays are made of ABS plastic. This is made of ebonite, which is a hard rubber or vulcanized rubber. And the reason why a lot of pens, certainly a lot more expensive pens, are made with ebonite feeds is that they actually give a lot more better ink flow than what a plastic feed would give. So if you're getting a pen and it has an ebonite feed, then you know that if there is any kind of flex on the pen, that you should be able to keep up there without any problems. So that's another pen that I have currently inked for this week. So I think now let's go and do a writing sample. So the first pen I have here today, we'll do an ink sample on, is a very wet pen. It's the ASC Bologna Extra Africa, and it's a medium 18 karat gold nib, and the ink in here is a really nice ink that I've gone through about half a bottle in 6 months on, which may not sound a lot, but it really is for me. This is De Atramentus, and it's chocolate. But this is a really nice brown ink that has fast become actually one of my favourite brown inks. You can see there. The next pen here is again another very wet writing pen, and this is an ASC Bologna Extra. I'm going to get it right this time because you wouldn't have seen this, but I've already done this once already, and I just had to redo it again because I put this as a Verde, and it's not the Verde, it's the Wild. And I only realised once I started doing the Verde. So this is a medium 18 karat gold nib, the wonders of video editing. And then the ink in here is Akerman, and this is Deneweg Gron. But that is a lovely ink, And I got it right second time round, so it's not too bad. And we have another ASC Bologna here, and this is the Verde. And hopefully I won't get that wrong, but again, you can see here, this is a super wet nib. So, it's an ASC Bologna Extra Arco Verde, and it's again a medium 18 karat gold nib, because you can't get these in any other nibs widths. And then the ink in here is Ackerman, and it's Bezuiden Woodgrown. And I'm probably mispronouncing that name, but I don't speak Dutch, so that's probably my best pronunciation I can get. But if anybody knows the correct pronunciation, then do please let me know. And the next pen here is again the final Armando Simone Club Bologna. And I have actually watered this ink down a little because it's normally a lot darker, but I wanted to just water it down a little bit and just see what it looked like. So this is the ASC Bologna, and it's the Extra, and it's the Arco Brown, and again in a medium 18 karat gold nib. And the ink in here is Ackerman, and it's SBRE Brown. But this normally is a much darker brown ink, but I decided that I wanted just to change the shading a little bit, so I added just a little bit of water into an ink vial before actually inking the pen up, and I actually kind of like that colour. It's a very lighter brown, so I might have to do that a little bit more in the future. The next pen is the beautiful Visconti, which is the birthday present for me. And this is, again now, quite a wet writing nib. It's not as wet as the Bolognas are, but I like it. It's a good medium wet nib. So it's the Visconti Jacques de Malay, and it's a medium, and it's a 23 karat palladium nib. And then the ink in here is Diamine Earl Grey. But that really is one of my favourite grey inks. It's actually one of my favourite pens as well. And then we have the lovely Montegrappa. So, do an ink swatch here. Now this is a medium nib as well. This does have a little bit more of a bounce to it. So you can actually get a little bit of bounce out of it, although I try not to on this one. So it's the Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove, which is a Goulet exclusive, or was until it ran out, and it's a medium, and it's an 18 karat gold nib. And the ink on here is Diamine Earl Grey. So you can see a little bit of a difference here between the two colours of the pens. So they're both mediums, they're both the same ink, but you get a slightly different shader. So the Visconti's coming in maybe a shade lighter, and or the Montegrappa's coming in a shade darker than the Visconti. And that's just how it can work out in some pens. The next pen is the lovely Pelican, and I have not written with this very lately. So I'm really glad that I was able to ink this up and actually start writing with it. Now, this is an ink that I love in this pen. Again, I've not used the ink for a long time, so for me, this is an ink that I want to start writing with more. So this is a Pelikan M800 Royal Gold Rawdon, and it's a broad 18 cat gold nib. And then the ink in here is Pilot Iroshizuku Inner Ho. And I'll just do that. That's just me misaligning the nib a bit there. But that is a beautiful ink that I really do like. It's a goldy greeny type ink, or greeny goldy ink, but it's a really nice ink. And then we have the Scribo 2. And this has a 14 cat gold nib, and again this is quite a wet writer, and you can flex the nib quite a bit as well. So it's a Scribo 2, and it's the Noble Green, and it's a medium 14 cat gold nib. And then the ink in here is a really nice ink, and it is Akamon and it's Bazurden Woodgrown. Now, the reason why I was hesitating a little bit, because I actually normally have a lighter green in here, but this is actually turning out to be a little bit lighter in comparison to this one here, which is exactly the same ink. So you can see again with the different pens how the ink actually changes, but that is actually Akamon Bazurden Woodgrown in that pen. Normally I go with Van Hoysem's Sapgrown, but more lately I've been inking up with that. And here's another lovely Scribo, and this is again a very wet writing nib. And I used to actually have an Akamon ink in here, but I've more recently actually been having a Pelikan ink in here. So this is the Scribo 2 in the Cardinal Red. Again, it's a medium, and it's a 14 cat gold nib. And the ink in here, as I said, it's a Pelikan. And it's Pelikan Edelstein Ruby, and this is the regular ruby, not the ink of the year ruby. But you can also already see here that this ink is starting to sheen, and I don't know if you can actually see that there. Yeah, you can probably see it a bit, but that already is sheening quite a lot. So that's a lovely ink. And then, last but not least, we have the Molteni. So do another ink swatch here. And you can see there again, it's quite a wet writing nib. So it's a Molteni, and it's a royal blue Lucian's Modelo 55S in a medium 18 cat gold nib. And then the ink in here is a lovely colour for me, KWZ Gummy Berry. And that really is a beautiful ink. And the ink actually has a little bit of a scent of vanilla to it as well. Or at least a lot of the KWZ inks do. So, let's just look at the inks in these pens one more time. We have an ASC Bologna Extra Africa in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Diatramentis chocolate. We have an ASC Bologna Extra Wild in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Ackermann Dennoveg Gron. We have an ASC Bologna Extra Arco Verde in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Ackermann Bazuden Woodgrown. We have an ASC Bologna Extra Arco Brown in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Ackermann SBRE Brown, which has been watered down a little bit. We have a Visconti Jacques de Molay in a medium 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. We have a Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove with a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. We have a Pelican M800 Royal Gold Raden in a broad 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Pilot Roche Shizuku in a Ho. We have a Scribo 2 in the Noble Green in a medium 14 karat gold nib, inked up with Ackermann Bazuden Woodgrown. We have a Scribo 2 in the Cardinal Red in a medium 14 karat gold nib, inked up with Pelican Edelstein Ruby. And then finally we have a Molteni Royal Blue Lucius Modelo 55S with a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with KWZ Gummy Berry. So there you have it, that's my currently inked pens for this week. Thanks for watching, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.